Australia is home to a very decent collection of launch coasters, but there are two that stand out above the rest. There's the raw power of the famous Intamin Accelerator Superman Escape, and the modern sleeper hit that is Dreamworld's newest signature coaster, Steel Taipan. It's time for another coaster showdown, and in today's episode it's magnetic versus hydraulic, Mack versus Intamin, Dreamworld versus Movie World. Today we finally decide what is Australia's best launch coaster, Steel Taipan or Superman Escape. These two coasters have completely different styles and strengths, so it's going to be very interesting to compare which one comes out on top. Many people consider Superman Escape to be a dark horse for Australia's best coaster overall, but Steel Taipan also has its collection of passionate fans, so this could be an interesting contest. Without further ado, let's get this battle underway. The stats. This is going to be a very tight contest. Steel Taipan is a clone of the Blue Fire model from Germany's Europa Park, but with an additional reverse spike added to the launch. That gives it a height of 39 meters or 128 feet, with 1,200 meters or 3,937 feet of track. It hits a top speed of 105 kilometers an hour or 65 miles per hour. It features 4 inversions, an incredible 94-degree bank angle, and 3.8 positive Gs of force. It stands as Australia's second longest roller coaster and our fastest launch coaster. Superman Escape's stats come somewhat close to matching Taipan exactly, although it does have a few shortcomings by comparison. It stands 40 meters tall or 131 feet, with 700 meters or 2,297 feet of track. Its top speed is 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles per hour. It does not feature any inversions, although it has Taipan beat for positive G-force at 4.2. Its acceleration is its other impressive statistic, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 2 seconds. All of these stats are particularly close, but there is one that stands out as giving one coaster a clear edge, and that is the length. Not only does Taipan almost double Superman's length, when you factor in the pre-show section, it is a significantly longer coaster, with 4 inversions to boot as well. I'm going to give this point as a narrow victory to Steel Taipan. The queue and pre-show. Steel Taipan has its own precinct at Dreamworld, an expansive and open area around the ride with a rocky desert feel. Its entrance is a creatively themed shade structure shaped like the skeleton of a snake, which is a nice touch. While the area feels modern and certainly pleasing on the eye, I would not really describe it as being themed, and that's where this coaster might fall short in this category. Superman Escape is one of Movie World's better themed rides, and in the absence of Scooby-Doo, it's certainly the best themed coaster. Themed as a metro subway station in the midst of a deadly earthquake, it features excellent theming elements in the queue and an even better pre-show that gives the ride an elaborate storyline with the use of cool, practical and lighting effects, smoke effects, and scripted audio. There's no competition here. The point goes to Superman Escape. This might be among the best themed coasters in Australia, and it has Taipan covered hands down when it comes to presentation. The trains. Steel Taipan features Mack's sit-down trains, which are in use on all their launch coaster, mega coaster, and hypercoaster models around the world, including DC rivals just down the road. These are very comfortable trains with lap bars that don't restrict your forces, and seats that are ergonomically designed to keep your feet off the floor and add to your freeing experience and the sensation of flying. Not to mention that the Taipan theming looks sleek, especially with the glowing eyes, and the spinning seats in the back are a brilliant addition. Superman Escape, meanwhile, features the classic Intamin Accelerator trains. These also look sleek, but feature a harder over-the-shoulder restraint. I don't personally find that these restrict my airtime on this ride, but I know that this is a complaint from larger riders, and they are certainly a neck-chopping risk on the whippy lateral transitions of the coaster. But I will say I love the contrast of the yellow trains on the red track, and Superman pushing from behind is a cute touch. A point for Steel Taipan here. In my opinion, these are some of the sleekest trains in Australia, and I'm always a huge fan of Mack's restraint systems. The launch. Steel Taipan's first launch is actually 3 launches. The ride features a triple bypass swing launch, making use of the reverse spike to add an extra element of difference from other Blue Fire clones. However, the byproduct of this is that the initial launch is quite weak. The first launch doesn't offer much kick at all, however the second launch backwards up the spike is much better, and the reverse spike is a fantastic element. The third launch gets you up to tremendous speed, but by that point you're already carrying a lot of momentum. When considering the launch alone and not factoring the spike in as part of it, it's pretty weak overall. Superman Escape is an Intamin Accelerator. This means it utilizes a hydraulic launch instead of a magnetic LSM launch. And while the hydraulic launches are notoriously unreliable, they are also insane. The raw power of the initial kick from Superman's launch is incredible, pinning you back in your seat and absolutely peeling your face off. For me, it is by far the best launch in Australia. It's smooth and an unforgettable moment that takes my breath away every single time. An easy point for Superman Escape. I don't think anything out there can currently match the Intamin hydraulic launches, and it's sad that the technology is so unreliable because I almost wish they could build more. The Airtime. Steel Taipan may be an inversion focused coaster, but it does have airtime. Surprisingly though, the airtime hill is not actually a very powerful airtime moment, and the strongest airtime on the ride actually comes from the entrance and exit from the mid-course brake run. Particularly in the back seats, this airtime can border on ejector, and it always comes as a bit of a surprise. It's also one of the highlights of the tail whip seats, as the laterals on the entry to the mid-course get you spinning, so you can enjoy that airtime while spinning out of control. Superman, however, is an airtime-focused ride and has 3 great moments of ejector airtime. I actually find the camelback stronger than the top hat, and they're always brilliant, particularly in the back seats. You soar over the top of those hills with great pace, resulting in a fantastic moment where you're flung out of your seat. I love it to pieces, and I think it's a clear winner here. A point for Superman. It is a little hard to compare forces like this when the rides have different focuses, but I think the airtime is actually a good indicator for the forces of each ride overall, as Superman is consistently more powerful. The intensity. What I find to be a major problem for Steel Taipan is that it seems to lose a little bit of pace on the straight track after its launch fins, and that just takes the edge off it slightly. Particularly when compared with the other Blue Fire clone I've ridden, Giant Digger at Lotte World Adventure Busan, I noticed that elements like the airtime hill and the twisted horseshoe roll just don't quite hit on Steel Taipan. A lot of the ride feels very floaty, and with the exception of the Blue Fire roll and the reverse spike, I wouldn't describe any moments on the ride as intense. Superman, meanwhile, always seems to be over in a flash. While it's a short ride overall, it maintains incredible pace through its layout, stacking on the airtime, positives, and laterals relentlessly. It's a fast-paced, heart-pounding ride for the 30 seconds that it lasts, and that's probably what makes it leave such a lasting positive impression on most of its riders. For intensity, Superman is a winner comfortably. Steel Taipan just always seems geared to be a more soaring, gliding experience, and none of its elements really get your heart pounding the way Superman's do. The pacing. Again, Steel Taipan has a slight issue here, although I'd say it's still a very well-paced ride. The launch fins issue is just one of those little things that I can't stop noticing now that I've experienced the layout with a single launch, so it always bugs me that the ride could probably just be slightly better paced. However, what does give Taipan some big points here is the ride length. You really get bang for your buck from Taipan, and there are still some great moments and brilliant flowing elements along the way. Superman is the opposite side of the coin in terms of pacing. It takes its elements much more fluidly, and the forces hit much more nicely, but the ride is over in the blink of an eye. I suppose it would come down to which aspect of pacing you value more highly, a ride that feels adequately lengthy, or a ride that maintains its pace better through the layout, even if that layout is shorter. For me, I think the difference in length is much too stark, and I'm going to give it to Steel Taipan. While Superman flows much better, Taipan feels like a more complete ride experience, and it still does maintain its pace reasonably well. The best moment. In my opinion, there are 2 contenders for Steel Taipan's best moment. First, there is the Blue Fire roll. This inline twist is an ejector airtime moment somehow. upside down Airtime. It's absurd and one of the whippiest inversions I've experienced. But I think I'm going with the reverse spike. This is the standout moment of the ride. It blasts you with positives on the way up and then seems to hold for a moment before hurtling you back down into the final launch. It's a great moment and I love it. Superman's best moment is indisputable though, the launch. And I know we've already discussed it in this video, but it's just that good. An incredible blast of face-melting positive force that gets the ride off to an incredibly powerful start before blasting upwards into that 40-meter top hat. It's one of the standout moments on any coaster in Australia, and it's the reason we all love it. The point goes to Superman. Very few things can match that launch, and that's not to trash on Steel Taipan's reverse spike, because that's also an excellent element. The operations. You know what's weird? Almost every time I've been to Dreamworld since Steel Taipan opened, it's been a walk-on or a station wait. But I have noticed there are some delays in operations, and that's usually for the forgivable and understandable reason that Dreamworld have erred on the side of caution in terms of operating procedures. They do tend to stack the trains, and actually they run one train more often than not, but I would describe the operations on Taipan as just okay. Superman, like most rides at VRTP parks currently, is just infuriating. The biggest problem is that this ride seemingly always runs with one train, even during summer months, and that's a killer for capacity. Even on the rare occasion that I've seen it run with two, they usually end up stacking pretty badly, which makes the separate exit platform more of a burden than a blessing. I hope someone from Village Roadshow watches my videos because, guys, come on. Your operations are starting to become a joke. A point for Steel Taipan. It's far from perfect operationally speaking, and I would encourage Dreamworld to improve on it as well. But at the moment, they have VRTP covered hands down, which is such a shame given the quality coasters that VRTP parks boast. My first reaction. Again, I hope that in future coaster showdowns I will show my first reaction in this segment, but I was not able to record my first rides on either of these coasters. I first rode Steel Taipan in December 2021, shortly after its opening. I travelled up on a Gold Coast trip with my family and I was super excited to get on this ride. It certainly put a smile on my face, and I think the word I would have used at the time was re-rideable, because I ended up lapping it quite a lot that day. I thoroughly enjoyed my first experiences with Taipan. Superman, meanwhile, might be one of the reasons I'm an enthusiast today. I first rode it in January 2015, in my early days as a proper coaster enthusiast, and oh boy, the way that launch made my jaw drop. This was another heartstopper for me, and I was obsessed with it afterwards. It was one of my contenders for my #1 coaster at the time, and for good reason. It knocked my socks off. The point goes to Superman. I had a very high opinion of Steel Taipan after my first rides, but it definitely didn't blow me away the same way Superman did. That ride was truly something else, and I actually wish I could experience it for the first time again. So we have a narrow victor. It was a much closer contest than I probably anticipated, but Superman Escape is our winner and the best launch coaster in Australia. Let me know where you agree or disagree with my judgments in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you next time.